Hello and welcome back to Establish the Collection. It is episode 30. We took a month-long break to catch up on life. A few things happened for Gary. We enjoyed the holidays with our friends and family, but we are back. You could not get rid of us that easily. Of course, I am Cody Main, joined as always by Gary Hartman. Gary, how's it going, buddy?
Happy New Year, Cody. Cheers to you.
Cheers to you, Gary.
Yeah, man. Happy New Year. Lots going on. A lot going on in your life, in my life. Since we've last spoken, which I believe we released our last podcast on December 6th, we're recording this on what is about to turn January 5th. So exactly a month off. And I got married. My sister had a baby, so I'm a new nephew. And just enjoying the new year. We're winding down the football season, but happy that life has calmed down since the wedding. You can see I'm having a beer on the podcast. Usually I have a seltzer because I was on my wedding diet no more. But happy to be back, excited to chop it up. And there's been a lot that's happened in the hobby since we've last been here. So a lot to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to see you having a beer. The immediate of letting yourself go.
Oh yeah.
The second that you get married, that's how it should happen, man. So she's forced to love you regardless of how you look. so enjoy as many heavy and dark beers as you would like.
Yep, that's the idea. We went to Colombia right after the wedding as like a mini moon to Cartagena. It's a great city. I can't recommend it enough. It's really like only 4 hours from the east, the East Coast or the Northeast, and great mix of like food and culture and like beach, and it was awesome. And I just ate my face off, like a ton of great fish, but just like plantain chips, and just I ate whatever the hell I wanted. And we'll see how long it gets going. I mean, my excuse is it's freezing outside. I can't really go outside for a run. I guess I can go to the gym, but I'm not like old school Cody Main who was hitting the gym every single day and chopping it up and pumping the iron.
It's funny that you bring that up because I'm the furthest thing from like a resolutions guy. I could care less about a New Year's resolution, but we just happened to, ironically, at the end of the year, get a new gym for our home. So I am no longer going with the pandemic and like all that stuff. I just had no desire to go back to a gym. And now with 3 kids, it's just like not enough time in the world to go to a gym anymore. So we finally got a bench set and some weights and a barbell and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm getting back to fitness level Cody Main after letting myself go for the past like 3 years.
Yeah,
just grinding my face off. So
we'll be the Swolecast soon enough. But what else is up? Anything else going on in your life? Or
no, not a whole lot. I mean, shout out to me for the sign in the background. Yeah, my wife gifted me an incredible gift from her, with the help of her father, with my father-in-law. Made this sign for me. So Adam Levitan, if you're listening, eat your heart out, bro. But your sign is not nearly as good as mine. But no, that's been about it, man. Just trying to take a little break. It's been good to kind of just reset. It's been a crazy NFL season. I know you're grinding your face off now with NBA. So yeah, the month off from the collectibles pod was nice, kind of reinvigorating. And we were just talking. We kind of wanted to just chill and shoot the shit and kind of just catch up. But the hobby didn't really give us that opportunity, did it? Because Monday night, as we were thinking of show topics, we get kind of another bombshell dropped from Fanatics. So why don't you take it from there? What's going on in the world of Fanatics and Topps?
Yeah, so obviously, Fanatics gained all the licensing for, our major leagues in America, which we, have spoken about at length, at the end of the last calendar year. And this was what happened this past week was something we anticipated could happen. I did not see it coming this soon. I thought it would be closer to when those licenses went into effect, when Topps would really be in trouble. But Fanatics went out and bought Topps, officially reported this morning, last night. They're $500 million. They went out and bought Topps, the company. So really exciting stuff to know that all the licensing, not only baseball, but basketball and football will be available in the Topps brand. I would imagine that Fanatics will be interested in keeping around those flagship brands and kind of to be able to take their overhead, take their infrastructure. So really exciting stuff there. And, lots to speculate on, now the ball's rolling with the first acquisition from Fanatics.
Yeah, I think you bring up an interesting point there. The first acquisition. So are you expecting there to be more? Is that kind of a thought that you've had now with Topps being purchased? Obviously, that devalues Panini quite a bit. We had mentioned, I think, when this deal first broke with Fanatics getting the licenses, that there is some potential, maybe Upper Deck, maybe others. Maybe we finally get all of these iconic brands under one roof. Do you think this is just the first shoe to fall in that happening?
Ultimately, yes, I do think it is the first one. I think we can expect to see something like Upper Deck come around, way sooner than something like Panini. I would hope so. That'd be great, man. If we like have 3 years to look forward to and get Topps Chrome and Exquisite back in the same year, I
Oh,
mean, that'd
baby.
just be amazing. But I think Panini is not as big of a rush. Obviously, they have a very successful company and products that they're continuing to roll out. But I do think this puts the pressure on them a little bit for this reason. We talk about Topps Chrome coming back. That was the flagship card for, basketball and football for many, many years. Over the last 6 to 7 years, that has become Panini Prism. Panini doesn't want that product to be devalued in any way, and I think that they may feel a little pressure to make sure that they know that their legacy, that their company will have that value live on, knowing that, hey, their biggest competitor for what could be considered a flagship card of any sport is going to be coming back now. And obviously they knew they were going to be losing this licensing at some point, but I'm sure they were hoping that those brands live on, that their employees can be taken care of and all that. So I don't know when it's going to happen. I would not expect it to happen as quickly. Topps was in a much more urgent position, really only having baseball and Formula One and soccer to lean back on, while Panini still dominates the domestic landscape of football and basketball. So Topps really needed to get this done, especially after their own Wall Street struggles, tried to go public, all that kind of stuff. They were in way more of a dire position of need here. But I do anticipate that ultimately, I do think, whether it's in 6 months or 2 years down the line, I think all these brands will end up under one roof.
Yeah, and ultimately from the business side, from the financial side for Topps, this deal makes sense. They were valued at 1.3 billion, I believe it was, when their SPAC deal was set to go public just a few months ago before the Fanatics deal with the leagues was announced. 500 million, and their employees are taken care of. I think this was a deal made at the right time, and being the first shoe to fall, I think it takes a less of a hit on them financially as a company. So. Yep. You mentioned F1. That's got to be great news for you. The F1 legacy is going to live on. I want to take a quick tangent here because it's been so long that I don't think we even discussed the final race, which I know there was a lot of controversy. Is it top of mind enough for you after the wedding and the mini moon that you can discuss to me as much as our listeners exactly what happened and what you expect to be kind of the card fallout from that going forward?
It was absolutely crazy what happened. If you don't know, I would just recommend going to watch on YouTube or read a recap or something of what happened about a month ago now. So it was the final race. Basically it ended up becoming winner take all. So for the drivers' championship, whoever won this race between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton was going to be the F1 world champion for 2021. And Lewis had the race in the bag. Couple laps left, had a pretty insurmountable lead until the worst driver on the grid spins out, creates a crash. There's a red flag, meaning that the race basically pauses while there's a safety car that goes around. Now, those laps count towards the culmination of the race. So everyone on the back end is basically talking about, okay, how are they going to handle this? Will there be another racing lap here? If there is, it gives Red Bull and Max Verstappen a huge advantage. They were able to pit. Lewis couldn't really do that in the lead. So they were able to pit, get new tires on. And basically what happened was the FIA, which is like the referees of the F1, world, made a decision with, it's hard to explain without seeing the video, but made a decision basically at the last moment when Max had a chance to creep up right behind the safety car, right behind Lewis Hamilton, that they were going to just start the race, basically back out of nowhere, and basically handed the race with 1 lap left to Max Verstappen. The best way I can maybe analogize this would be like if on a football field, a player fumbles, loses the fumble, gets called, basically all the way back, return for, whatever, brings it back to the 2-yard line. They review all of that and they basically make up their mind to put the ball in a completely different spot that it never was. And then gave the opportunity for the other team to win the game, and just like basically took whatever the replay was or the review or whatever was happening, and then moved it to a completely different part of the field and changed something else up. So there's a lot of controversy around that. Obviously, were they trying to make this more of a Hollywood moment? Obviously, the Netflix series has been so successful. What kind of power did that have? These are all real controversies that you have read out there. At the end of the day, Max Verstappen won the race. Fair or square, he won it. He's the world champion. Good on him. And I don't think it'll be his last. Next season is going to be fascinating because there's a ton of rule changes coming. And, I think it's going to be pretty much a much more even playing field, kind of like we're seeing in the NFL this year. A lot of parity, I think, coming to F1 next year, which will be a lot of fun. And, the card market has been reflective of the popularity. I mean, it's more popular than ever. Really, really is. And, we're still waiting on the 2021 Topps F1 to drop. I think they were supposed to come out towards December, as most of these releases have. They've been pushed back, but I would expect to see that over the next couple of weeks too. And I think once that comes out, it's just going to keep the momentum rolling right into the new season 4 of Netflix Drive to Survive, right into the start of next season, which I'm planning on, hopefully, knock on wood, going to a couple of Grand Prix next year. So really excited
wow.
for that.
Nice.
But just a crazy sport, mix of entertainment value and obviously competition and skill. But go check out what happened in the end of there, and check out some of these F1 cards, because they stay hot.
Yeah, even like for someone like myself who is just kind of tangentially following along and keeping interested because of your interest in trying to keep up with it for the podcast, it took over Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
It was the biggest thing that was happening in that sports weekend, and anyone that was following sports was paying attention to that race and the end of that race. And just a quick glance at Verstappen stuff. Again, most of this stuff is still pretty raw, but everything is up across the board over the last 30 days, the last 7 days. So like you mentioned, I think this momentum is just going to continue to roll in to next season. I'm seeing more and more people talk about the Netflix series now. So clearly that's picking up steam as well. So again, finding these niche sports that you are legitimately interested in, and then can find some money making opportunities with the hobby aspect of it as well.
Yeah, man. I ended up selling that purple Lewis Hamilton that we discussed way back when on the pod for about $16,000
Wow.
raw. Obviously, a very nice chunk of change, right?
Wow.
I actually think I should have waited, and I could have got more if I waited the season out as the sport grew more popular. It was out of 10. There was only so few, and basically what happened was I saw that right after the national convention, and I think there was so much F1 hype at the national convention. You saw F1 take a huge step up right when people got home, and that's when that card sold. Basically, got my best offer by a mile, and I took it. I don't regret. Yeah, obviously, you don't look back at anything kind of sale like that with real regret. But yeah, man, like I have some other stuff, Lewis, Max, Russell, Lando, that like I know it's smart to sell when the season ramps back up, and especially when the Netflix series stops back up. But like, I am very bullish on this stuff. Like, especially this first year 2020 top stuff, and knowing that it's under Fanatics roof, just to kind of put a bow on this, like this is not going anywhere. I trust Fanatics to know how important this is from an international standpoint, what they're trying to do from a hobby perspective. Like this stuff is here to stay. And I will be doing a nice mix of taking my short-term gains and kind of having a long-term portfolio in F1.
Yeah, I trust Michael Rubin and Josh Luber to understand how big this market is, and all these markets are. These guys are cutthroat businessmen. These deals that they're making continue to impress me, but I'm no longer shocked by anything that these guys are doing. So, I think we're in good hands right now. It's to be determined what the product is ultimately going to look like and what the print runs will ultimately look like. But I think we have to feel pretty confident about where the hobby is with Lubin and these guys in charge. So I feel really good about that.
Agreed.
All right, there's so much hobby stuff we need to catch up on. I do want to talk PSA real quick, because PSA did announce that their regular tier submission is reopening. It's reopening for $100 a pop, right up to $14.99 in value for each card. That's up from 20 previously, if I remember right. So a big jump.
You were able to get ultra modern with the subscription for 10 a pop.
Oh, so this is a huge jump, right? This is we've kind of been waiting for this to drop, and we've kind of been waiting for this announcement as they continue to work through their backlog. What does this mean to you ultimately? This $100 tier. Are we going to see less base cards being graded going forward? Is this good ultimately for the hobby? Is this bad for the hobby? What's the ultimate ramifications for us as collectors?
I think short term it's good, because it puts back on the radar, at least for people that can afford it, the necessity, or at least the wherewithal to maybe get a $1,100 card graded. When it grades a 10 is worth $1,200, whatever it is. If you have it sitting there that's worth $300 in raw form, it's still worth paying that extra $100 to gain $800 of value, right? So you have that available to you now, which is important. I don't think it's the place we ultimately want to be. I understand they're still trying to clear their backlog. They've done a good job doing most of that. I think where we ultimately want to be, though, is like a $50 to $75 tier, which I still think would keep out the junk, for lack of a better word. It'll keep out the $20 and $30 cards, but it would still allow a $700 card, a $600 card where, hey, I have a $400 card sitting around that I know is like worth, whatever, 400, 450 when it's graded, that I'm not necessarily going to spend $100 because what if it comes back in 9 and then I just wasted $100 and I lost a little value or whatever. So you want to get that sweet spot, which I think will end up being 50 or 75. They're not there yet. I hope at some point over the next year or two, we will get to that clear cut point where there are the different tiers and there will be kind of that 50. And still, that's not an approachable place for everyone. But, hey, if you're an average collector that's able to get lucky and hit like 1 or 2 big cards a year, you can going to afford to go grade that. So I think that's where we're going to be for now. I think this is a good step forward. PSA is still very much king. I know, SGC is taking a big step up, in their, kind of hiatus for lack of a better word of sure. Having most cards come in, but PSA is still on another level of their own. I still like BGS a lot for like Bowman first autos and a lot of first autographs, but I think PSA is so clearly the king here that I'm glad that they have that back open. I haven't put in a submission in a while. I'm probably going to do one soon. Have a lot of Burrow I want to get graded. We'll talk about him in a second. I have a lot of F1 stuff I want to get graded. So now it's a little bit more approachable for someone like me as well.
Yeah, let's just jump in there because I think the interesting stuff, at least from the sports perspective, is so many now as we're kind of heading into the playoffs in the NFL here. NBA is ramping up. I know a lot of young guys are taking leaps this season as well, namely Ja Morant, who went off again tonight. But the story, I think, is in the NFL with all of these young quarterbacks taking a step, making a name for themselves, and making a playoff push. This early in their career, we've seen it from Joe Burrow over the last couple of weeks, putting up absolutely absurd numbers. We obviously know what's there was Justin Herbert, Mac Jones for all of his flaws and lack of downfield prowess. He's obviously in the mix as well with Belichick and Josh McDaniels at the helm. Jalen Hurts out of nowhere made a playoff push. They're locked to make the playoffs. We got Trey Lance, who might even make a start in the playoffs. The 49ers make it, and Jimmy G isn't back. It's just crazy how many young, exciting, talented quarterbacks there are in the league. With that said, we want to talk football today to kind of catch everyone up where we believe we're at with the hobby. I don't think there's any better way to do this. We've talked about it a lot. We've done a lot of drafts on this show than just hopping in one of these Underdog best ball drafts. Basically, what they are, you draft through the playoff, and you're trying to advance to the Super Bowl, where the top heavy payouts are. And in order to do so, you got to kind of marry this game theory with which team you think makes the playoffs, but also having enough points to advance you there. So I think through this discussion, we can kind of talk about each team, each quarterback, some of these skill position players that also have a lot of hobby interests. So I'm going to hop in here. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully this thing doesn't fill up too fast. While I'm doing that, you've got something that you want to talk about too.
Let's just talk about the main guy. I think that's probably taken the biggest leap since we've last been on. And shout out to me. Talked about investing in him all off season. Talked about standing pat until the right moment in the regular season for selling or at least offloading some of my stuff. And I looked like a fool when I said, hey, I thought maybe they can make a run, and we were like, oh, they have a tough schedule. Turns out, doesn't matter for one Joe Burrow, last year's first overall pick. Let me get Cody's screen up here. And
we're filled. So don't feel like you got to rush this, but we're full here. So we're going to start drafting soon.
All I want to say is Joe Burrow, Joey B. What a freaking beast, man. And just quickly, I'll show mine real quick. You see his card is his PSA 10 base still climbing, only 2,200 pop, but up literally 84% over the last 2 weeks, and for good reason. Just what he's doing has that Bengals team in position to possibly get in the top 2 seed, right? What are they sitting at the 3 right now? Yep. Just you beat the Chiefs this past weekend, coming off 2 all-time performances. The sky's the limit for Joey B. I'm really excited about his future.
Yeah, and he's stacked up with skill position players, which is incredible. I hope they continue to address the offensive line, address the defense, but I think this team is set up to succeed. I don't know how I feel about Zach Taylor being kind of the coach of the year favorite at this point. He's had his ups and downs with Joe Burrow under center, but if the media thinks it, then maybe it can come true. As we're going to come up on the clock here, I want to mention just kind of strategy wise, if you guys are hopping in these, which I think you should, you really want to try and stack up. And this is all dependent on who you think is going to make the Super Bowl, who you're building around to make the Super Bowl. But I think we're in an interesting spot here. Yep. I love the Bills. I don't know how you feel about the Bills.
Yeah, I love the Bills to make a run, man.
Diggs here.
Let's do it.
And then on the wraparound, we can kind of complete that stack or the start of that stack with Josh Allen if he survives. So
100% in for that.
This is good because the Bills will not have a first round bye, so we know that we'll be accumulating those points for the first round. And just as importantly as kind of getting that stud in Diggs and Allen, obviously, there's some guys at the back end of this draft with Beasley, with Gabe Davis, with Dawson Knox, Devin Singletary. We can kind of close out this stack in a variety of ways. So I think this is an interesting way to start as long as Josh Allen makes it back to us.
It's a tough balance to strike. You're looking for, getting out of that first week. Mm-hmm. And, but if you do think the teams with the 1 seed have the best chance, and go ahead and grab Allen there. Yep. You want to make sure that you have exposure to those two. So I think the Bills are a perfect example. We saw them, have a statement win against New England a couple of weeks ago after, that crazy weather game in which, New England just ran the ball down their throats. I think they're ready to make some noise in this playoffs. Josh Allen is locked and loaded. And, I'm definitely bullish on the Bills here. Still very bullish on Josh Allen's card market too, man. Like, I've spoken about this as well. There were times where he was down a little bit this season. Still just such a believer in his talent, where, I think any of his stuff as an investment piece is totally cool. We still see the Josh Allen pace PSA 10 from 2018 and pop of around 1,200 is valued at 520 right now. That's still down from a peak of over $1,000. I like that a lot. It's up over the last 2 weeks as he's kind of, reestablished his Bills team as a contender, but still, I think a very affordable price at 500 for, who I think is one of the top 5 talent quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, and his silver select stuff graded PSA 10. That's field level silver PSA 10 pop of 143. That's up 25%. Just a couple of sales over the last month. But I think you're starting to see this run on quarterbacks, maybe some skill position players even that might have a shot at a Super Bowl, might have a shot at solidifying, some long-term legitimacy in the hobby. And there's going to be a lot of names that are in contention for that. Joe Burrow being one, as we just talked about, Josh Allen being another. And then a lot of these young bucks that could solidify themselves with a deep playoff run. We've got Dak in there as well on the Dallas side as we're back up on the clock here. Yep. So we know that our projected AFC team to make the Super Bowl in this draft is going to be the Bills.
Yep.
So we really don't need to stack up or even consider too many AFC options now. We will likely be getting Singletary if we can get there. Do you have a favorite from the NFC
side? Maybe you go Amari and then try to get – we don't love doing the 2 quarterbacks necessarily, but, I think that's a possibility. Dallas can make some noise.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Dallas is also pretty easy to stack up with Dalton Schultz at the back end, with Tony Pollard at the back end, so I like this one here.
Yeah, Pollard really falls in these things, too. I did one last night. I was shocked to see him go so late, too, so.
Yeah, and I think we can either do the double quarterback thing, or we can potentially take a shot here on an Aaron Jones and then maybe get a Marquez Valdes-Scantling late.
I think that's probably the move. Like, let's kind of hedge our NFC bet.
Right.
Hopefully Amari can get us through that first round from an NFC perspective. We'll grab another NFC running back later, maybe, and go from there.
And the interesting thing about this too, obviously, we're going to be dealing with the bye from the Packers, but we just have one running back spot to fill. So if we can get there with Singletary or Pollard or, maybe another guy for 1 week, then we feel pretty good about that. We'll be drafting some of these skill position players.
What's your approach on running back? As I know, a lot of the sharp people like Herzig and are talking about, you don't need more than 3 really in these drafts.
I will say most of my drafts have been like 1, 3, 6. I'm drafting one quarterback, assuming he's not going to have a bye. I don't think that too many quarterbacks are even going to outscore Josh Allen on any given week, or would be projected to. And then 3 running backs, assuming that I've got at least 2 that don't have a bye. You're going to want your highest score there. And then, just stacking up these wide receivers that could really pop off and fill a flex position as well. So I'm usually like 1, 3, 6. So
similar microcosm to the main, season long. We're
exactly
like 2, 5, and then the rest on the wide receiver tight end or wide receivers and like 1 or 2 tight ends. Here, obviously, wide receiver tight end are combined, which make things, more interesting. Basically, if you do a big enough sample size of these, right, you might think, oh, you only have 1 quarterback and I'm good with whatever you want to do here.
Yeah. So I think we take Singletary just to make sure we close out that stack. If Zeke comes back, I kind of like that. It fits with ADP as well. He's kind of a value. But if he doesn't come back, I don't feel too bad about that, just in the sense that we're going to have the shot at Pollard later too. So we'll take Singletary. We've got our 3 Bills now. And then we'll also want to be thinking later on probably about another NFC team. And that's another thing too, where I'm going like 4-2-2-2. So I've usually got like 4 from one conference and then 2-2-2 from the other.
Yeah, right. So basically what I was about to say is though, take who I guess we should take a pass catcher here?
Yeah. So I think the other teams that we would be considering here, because we can go Knox here. Yeah. You want to just close that out?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, because we're going to have some options. As you'll see, San Francisco is falling in these drafts now as they basically have to win to get in. So you'll see San Francisco guys fall. So we maybe have a shot at Kittle later, Elijah Mitchell later, even
which is
Brandon
worth a shot
Ayuk.
at the end. And obviously we're doing this before week 18. You'll probably hear this right before week 18 starts. It's who knows what's going to happen with that, but it could be a worthy shot where if they make it in, their ADP is going to fly.
Exactly.
So getting them now. And then what I was going to say is, you do a big enough sample size of these drafts. Like you think, oh, you only have one quarterback, you only have one Josh Allen. The idea is you will eventually be represented on all the teams that you think can get there. Right. So we're not telling you to go put a ton of money in these things, although Underdog is a great friend, but it's a great way to kind of talk about where things currently stand. By the way, I love Singletary as this kind of fits into my exact thesis as a DFS player, which I am very big into stacking running backs with quarterbacks, where I think a lot of people shy away from that. So Singletary to me, especially with him kind of having full command of that backfield right now, really fits into what we're doing with Josh Allen.
This won't fit with this draft, but I think it's an interesting discussion as Joe Burrow just goes off the board. We obviously talked about him. The darling of the hobby before the kind of the last couple of weeks with Joe Burrow really coming on and those pass catchers that they have in Cincinnati was Justin Herbert. Mm-hmm. It's been up and down for them lately. I mean, they lost to Houston. Their win and get in against the Raiders, which just seems asinine given the season that the Raiders have had. But where are we at from a hobby perspective on someone like Justin Herbert, who is going to go really late in this draft?
So Burrow's catching up to Herbert from a hobby perspective. Like if you look at their like NT RPA type stuff, I think, if you can catch any of that graded in a 9.5 or 10, I think Herbert's are going for like 40K and now Burrow's are up to like high 30s. So it's not that much of a gap here anymore. And I think it's right. I think Burrow is the better in-game quarterback right now. Now Herbert has more talent. There's just no direct, like he's got the bigger arm. He's got more flash.
We've got a lot of options here. Yeah, we can close out a Dallas stack by taking Pollard, which I think makes sense to kind of finish out the running back position, and then we can come back with Valdez-Scantling to close out.
If whoever you think is going to be a better chance of making it to the next pick, which there's only 2 picks in between, I think those are the 2 guys to get here, given that we have Cooper and given that we have Jones.
Yeah, theoretically, I should have looked at this team. He probably wanted Pollard there. Yeah, maybe. But I don't think that he's going to take Valdez-Scantling with having an NFC quarterback and an NFC stack already going. So
makes sense.
Perfect. Okay. So I think we go Valdez-Scantling. We close out the Packers side, and then we're just drafting somebody late. Maybe Kittle continues to slide. Maybe people are really worried about San Francisco not making it. So I think we take Valdez-Scantling here late enough in the draft that I don't think we've locked up too much draft capital on like high-end Packers guys. Obviously, Jones was kind of a top pick, but we got him after ADP. So we are hoping that this team is obviously strong enough to sneak these guys through if the Packers end up making it, which I think it is. And then we'll see what happens here with this last NFC team.
Let's talk about the Packers for a second, because Aaron Rodgers is on the brink of winning a back-to-back MVP at age 38.
Crazy.
Really, really amazing. Takeoff is off the field stuff. Like, who would have thought he may be hitting his peak as a player after people thought he was done like 3 years ago, or like at least on a decline, I've always been bullish on his Topps Chrome stuff. His base PSA 10, there's only 240 of them, and Topps Chrome is a $5,000 card. Haven't been many sales over the last couple months for good reason. Why would you sell that? But I think any of his stuff from his rookie early on season, Topps Chrome, X-Fractors, Refractors, Black Refractors, anything like that. Even his paper Topps from 2005. I think all that is just great investment pieces. And if you have it, with the Packers about to have another 1 seed, they've been in this position a bunch of times, a lot of NFC championships over this run, with McCarthy and, now over the last couple of years as well. Why am I blanking on their freaking coach's name?
LaFleur,
of course, with Matt LaFleur. So, is this the year? I think this is as good of a year as any for them to get to the mountaintop again. We've talked about the parity in the league. They're really a very, very complete team. I'm bullish on the Packers, man, and I'm bullish on Aaron Rodgers stuff. I also think you could see, listen, if Devontae Adams, AJ Dillon, Aaron Jones have big playoff moments, their cards will reflect value. It's not going to be at the same level of Rodgers or these quarterbacks, but they will reflect that value. So
that's another interesting point as we come back on the clock here, because I do want to talk about a couple of skill position players that I think might have some value. So we're looking for an NFC team here. We have obviously got Elijah Mitchell, who would be the feature back in San Francisco if they were to make it. We could also get Ayuk super late. We have the option at like an Ertz plus Chase Edmonds type of thing there too. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think I prefer the Cardinals side here.
All
Who
right.
knows what may happen there. And I think for the weeks that Ertz does play, very clearly with Hopkins out, the Kyler Murray's favorite target right now.
Yeah, and thinking about that, we've actually got running back, I think, locked up. How good do you feel about our running backs versus our skill position, our wide receivers and tight ends here? Would you want to go to maybe a Arizona pass catcher further down the road, or would you prefer Edmonds there and just go for running back since we've got pretty high draft capital with Aaron Jones, who's not going to play week 1?
Yeah, I'm pretty good with 4 running backs
Cool.
there. Pollard obviously presents a little bit of risk, and our other running back is also AFC. So, could probably make some sense to go to Edmonds, especially with Ertz.
Beautiful. I think this draft kind of came together as good as I've seen any of these drafts come together. It can be frustrating at times if you guys are hopping in these as you're playing, thinking through playoff scenarios and thinking through the card markets as well. If you're playing these, they can get frustrating because you'll get sniped on stacks way outside of ADP that you think might be available to you, and it just doesn't come to fruition.
Yeah. Everyone's trying to make their team fit,
Exactly.
So it's like the ADP could be a little all over the place for sure.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting. I mentioned those skill position guys. Jamar Chase, man. I mean, there's not a lot of NFL product coming out right now, and we can talk about that too in a second with some product releases. But Jamar Chase's stuff is going to be nuts when it comes out, right? I mean, this guy is putting up Justin Jefferson-like numbers and then some. Just posted, did he get 300 yards, almost 300 yards and 3 touchdowns? I mean,
an unbelievable performance that he put
just
on
an unbelievable performance. I think it's absolutely crazy with what he's doing. Do you have any takes on some skill position guys on the younger end that you have any interest in?
Yeah, I mean, Chase is certainly one of them. I mean, the guy's amazing. He really is. So they just came out with Panini Impeccable a couple weeks ago, or like a week or so ago. That's one of those products I really like a lot. It's this. Actually, I've shown this card before. I just happen to have it right here, where like they have the helmet and jersey rookie patch on card rookie patch autographs. Really, really nice stuff. First, like kind of high end release product of the year. They had Spectre come out as well, which I'm definitely more bullish on Impeccable. Yeah, I'm looking right now. They one Jamar Chase of that card out of 35 sold for $450, which for a receiver RPA, very, very nice price. I think he's a special talent. I'm really interested in what he's got going on. But a lot of young, good skill position players in the league. We talked about, Justin Jefferson. A shame we won't see him in the playoffs, but even not as young, like Cooper Kupp is having an all-time season, right? Like, and I think these guys are guys that should and could have value.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp, Jonathan Taylor, these are kind of the offensive player of the year type of candidates. I think if you see any of these guys make a run along with their team, along with the quarterback, obviously they're going to see an increase in value, but you're going to see these skill position players pop too. Diggs, kind of up and down with him this season. It's crazy just with the expectations that we have for Diggs as a fantasy asset at this point in his career, that we kind of consider this season up and down, as good as it's been in total. But if the Bills do make a Super Bowl run, as we're kind of projecting with this team, then Diggs' stuff is absolutely going to pop as well.
Definitely.
We talked about the young Bucks, Herbert and Burrow. Maybe we get a Trey Lance start if the 49ers make it. Mac Jones, who I don't think even was drafted in this draft. What about some of the guys that aren't first and second year guys, but some of these guys that are still young enough that they've got some establishing to do with their careers, with their legacies? Kyler Murray, who's been very up and down of late. Dak Prescott, who has been more up than down of late, but is kind of in that same boat offensively, as the Cowboys have had their fair share of struggles in the back half of the season. Do you think any of these guys, obviously if they make a Super Bowl run, sure, but do you think either of those guys can kind of solidify themselves as one of the hobby's darlings throughout the playoffs?
Yeah, this is the time where if you have conviction on a team that you really think can make a run, especially this year where like there's no clear-cut favorite, that this is the time to pounce, week 17, week 18, right before this stuff starts. Because, if you have one of these teams make for lack of a better example in my head, a New York Giants type of run where you're coming in as a 4 or a 5 seed, and you make a run, which this might be the year that you could do it. Listen, Kyler Murray, I don't believe in his health long term, but we've seen the Cardinals be one of the most dominant teams in the league, for portions of the season, especially towards the beginning of the year. And who knows, maybe they can get hot once again. If you see them go on a run and that guy just snags a Super Bowl out of nowhere, even if you don't think his ability to stay healthy is, he just went from being one of the best young quarterbacks in the league to being a Super Bowl champion. Of course, that could be. Dak has the Dallas thing. I think Dak's actually probably more durable than Kyler is. Dak's injury was a little bit more of a freak one. The Dak's talent is unquestioned. I think Dallas is set up really well for long-term success, as much as it pains me to say it. So I think both of those guys, Dak particularly, would be the one I'd be looking at of those two examples, have a chance to both make a run and see a lot more of a hobby hike because of it.
I love it. This was a lot of fun, man. The playoffs this year, I think they're going to be incredible. We've got so many good young names, so much talent, and then obviously the entrenched veterans likely to duke it out in an NFC Championship game, most likely with Brady again, with everything going on in Tampa Bay and Rodgers. It's going to be a ton of fun. I can't wait to see how this thing all shakes out. And any of these teams that make the playoffs, it's easy to say, but I wouldn't be shocked if any of them ultimately make it. So
can I give you some sells just to be a little negative? Just so at least
we don't do enough of that on the podcast, honestly. So give me some sales.
Here's the playoff picture, right?
Yes.
All right. So here's my thoughts on Herbert right now. If you're like thinking about selling Herbert or whatever, if they win this weekend, they're in the playoffs. I sell right before his first playoff game. So I think if you need to sell, right?
Sure.
So his market is staying very strong. There's going to be a lot of anticipation for guys like him and Burrow. And this kind of holds true for any of these guys. I think the same holds true for Jalen Hurts in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Kyler, if you don't think those, they're going to make a big run. Even Jonathan Taylor, I think I sold his stuff way too. I sold a bunch of Jonathan Taylor, RPAs and rookies at the beginning of the season when he started off too good. And if I just held till he was in the MVP conversation, I would have made a couple more bucks. But I think it's you wait to see how this week shakes out. And if these young guys who are really hot hobby names are guaranteed a playoff game, sell right up leading up to that Sunday, because that's when people do try to get in on these guys. So you're going to see a little natural increase of the anticipation. Now, could they go out and have a game of their life and you regret it? Of course. But you also then might be looking at a 6-month period where you can't sell these guys at all. So that's kind of my approach if you're looking to sell. So, I don't see the Chargers. The Chargers have been way too up and down, way too underachieving for me to think they can make a real run in the playoffs. So, that's a team where I'll be looking to, maybe move some stuff. If the Niners get in, unfortunately, never doubt Shanahan, and he plays to his competition and everything like that. But, that's a team that probably I'd be looking at something similar. I just talked about how I feel about the Cardinals and maybe they can't make a run, but I feel pretty similarly about the position they're in, and Hurts too. I think Hurts has a market just based off he's got flash. He's kind of keeps the Eagles in a lot of these games, but who knows if he'll ever see another playoff game again, right? Or what his real future is. I think the jury's still really out on him. So that's really my approach. And then, Burrow, someone like him, which let's talk about him just to put a bow on the NFL conversation. I think you could approach it in a couple different ways. Do you think the Bengals can win playoff games?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if they've got a Super Bowl run in them. No. I think that the team has an offensive ceiling, but I don't know that they have a legitimate Super Bowl run in them. So
yeah, I agree. I don't know if the offensive line is good enough. And just in general, they might be a little bit too young, I think, to kind of get past some of these big dogs. But hey, man, as long as he's keeping this thing going, maybe use your conviction there. But I want to give away some Joe Burrow cards, Cody, because
let's go. Let's go.
We've been off for a month, and no one has increased his stock both on the field and off the field and in the card market, and eventually in the NFT market when NFL All Day hits the streets for good. Then Joe Burrow, and it's been a joy to see because I like when I hit on a couple of my off-season investments. One, but two, I just love the guy and I think he's got it.
Yeah.
I think he's got the goods. So I got a little Burrow lot for you here. I got a Prism base rookie, which by the way, it looks like it's in pretty good condition. If these grade out, they're nothing to scoff at. A mosaic Prism rookie. As well as 2 mosaic base rookies, 1 day NFL debut and 1 regular. So 4 Burrow rookie cards I want to give out to a listener.
Beautiful.
I'm not giving you any real criteria. We've tried kind of getting our numbers up. Here's all I ask. We're going to give this card away next week, as long as we see some sort of movement on our podcast, whether that's just tweeting out about the show, tell a friend, just leave us a review, couple more likes, we see an uptick in downloads, whatever it is. If we see some sort of movement over this next week before next show, we're giving those 4 cards away. We know the criteria. If you've left a review, you are in the running to win those cards. So, whatever it may be, if you either leave a review or you tweet at us, we'll get you in there as well. But yeah, tell a friend, tweet it out, spread the love, because we have a lot of fun things coming in 2022. We're going to get some fun guests up on the horizon. We have a lot of NFL, NBA talk for you guys. I think we're really uniquely positioned. There's a lot of card podcasts out there. While I get on my little soapbox, there's a lot of card podcasts out there, but you're not going to get too many from two guys that are very entrenched in the hobby. You're going to get that from everyone, but B, from true like fantasy analysts, which really at the end of the day, that's what drives this market. The same people that are exciting for fantasy sports, that are exciting for Sports Center and for highlights, are exciting for the card market. And we can actually break it down from two guys that get paid to do it, and do it every week. And a lot of other people are just talking about it from a card perspective. We want to do that too. We can actually bring you real insight into these guys on the field and on the court performance. I'm grinding my ass off every day with NBA. Cody's, freaking in the weeds talking about Sean Mannion on Sunday Night Footballs. I promise you, there's no card podcast out there that actually knows more about these sports than we do. So gear up. We have a lot of fun stuff coming for the year. So just show us some love. I'll give away those 4 Burrow cards, and a lot more fun stuff coming in the new year.
I love it. I love it. I'm glad I gave you that chance to get on your soapbox, because that was great. And that's the reason why we started this thing. We think that we can bring some value to the card market just by talking about these things from a fantasy perspective, which is what we're really trying to do from an on-field and on-court perspective. As you mentioned, you're grinding your absolute face off with NBA. I can't believe the success that you guys have had, how well you're doing, personally, as much as you are for the ETR subscribers and for the ETR team. Why don't we kick it over to some NBA? I haven't been given nearly enough time in my life to focus on NBA, so I'm going to cede the floor to you once again. Anything from an NBA perspective that you would love to talk about?
Yeah, well, I mean, just crazy times with the COVID protocols in the NBA. Yeah. We're hoping that it's finally coming to an end. Basically, people have just been getting pulled off the street. Guys that probably thought they would never appear in an NBA game, that have had most of their careers overseas or career G Leaguers, and guys that haven't played in NBA games in 5 or 6 years, like Joe Johnson and Greg Monroe, because teams are that desperate for bodies. But I think we're starting to see it come around. Teams are clearing protocols. It's kind of almost everyone has gotten Omicron at this point. And I think we're going to reach herd immunity in the NBA before we do in actual society. But NBA has been fun regardless, and a lot of going on. I got this Lakers Kings game on right now. I would like a little bit more from your boy LeBron tonight, who I went over the field on in DFS, and I thought it would be a good thing. But LeBron is a good place to start, because over the last week and a half or so, the Lakers have been playing LeBron James at center. They finally realized that you cannot play a true traditional big man center when you have Russell Westbrook as your point guard, and they decided, hey, let's throw LeBron there, and it has bared fruit, man. Like, he has been dominant over the last week, from a statistical perspective, from an on-court perspective. It's so funny. I just think it comes full circle. Like, if you remember when LeBron first came out as a rookie when I was 11, and I remember this very well, actually do. They were talking about, hey, LeBron James is our starting point guard. Came out, and we've seen LeBron play point guard obviously a lot throughout his career, but that was how he started his career. He was like advertised as a point guard to start his rookie, and now we're at the end of his career and he's starting center every night for the Lakers. I say all this to say, listen, the Lakers are a little bit disappointing. I think as long as they get into the playoffs, they have as good of a chance as anyone in the West, but LeBron James is still LeBron James, and I think his cards are still as safe of an investment as you can possibly make.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, kind of winter hit the sports card hobby. LeBron James was not immune to that. His 2003 Topps Chrome, that iconic Topps Chrome card in a PSA 10, really suffered. That thing got wrecked. It's nice to see some leveling just over the last couple of weeks, the last month. It's back up about 3%. I think you'll see that thing level off. I mean, there's not much, obviously, anything LeBron really needs to do to enhance his legacy. He is where he is. Obviously, a playoff run with this version of Russell Westbrook would be pretty insane. Might add a little bit to his overall legacy. I don't know if the Lakers have that type of ceiling. As much as we talked about it this offseason, all of that is coming home to roost, because they just don't have what it takes with Russell Westbrook on the court. As much as I hate to say that as a LeBron fan. But yeah, no, it's good to see that the top name in the hobby still, from a basketball perspective. Yeah. We're seeing some leveling off there.
He's a very good place to start when you're having just a macro NBA conversation, right? You could look at that Topps Chrome, and I'm happy to see where it is. And I know I've said this before, like it's good to see this market correction, but now we have a bigger sample size. We're like 8 months out from that bubble or whatever it was, whatever you want to call it, the peak, the bubble. I don't care. It wasn't a bubble because this market's still so strong. Topps just bought for $500 million. So it wasn't a bubble, but I think this 12 to 13K that you're seeing that card out right now is exactly where it should be. It's a pop of almost 20, 21, 2200. It's not the Michael Jordan card, but I do think long term, that'll be anywhere from $12,000 to $20,000 for the foreseeable future. And that's probably where that card should be. It should have never gotten up close to 50 grand.
No.
But 12 grand, if I ever have, say I win a 50K GPP and I'm looking for an investment piece, that is a great place for me to go. And I feel very comfortable spending $12,000 on that card. And knowing that in 20 years, when I'm telling my grandkid or 25 years about LeBron James, that card will be worth more than $12,000. I feel very comfortable with that thought. So yeah, I mean, that's a great place to start. You mentioned Ja Morant before.
Yeah.
I am somebody that has been heavily invested in Ja Morant. Just kind of, that's when I got into the hobby and everything like that. But that guy, man, he better be making all-star team. Like, he's unbelievable. He's just unbelievable. Like, puts him and Trae Young both, like, these little guards just dominating the league right now. Trae went off for 54 last night in a losing effort to Portland. But man, both of them have silenced any kind of criticism I had. I don't care what kind of defensive players they are. They're like Iverson level good on offense right now. Both of them. So those are two guys that I just am completely bullish on to have some opportunity to continue to make some noise. The Grizzlies particularly, they have Desmond Bane as a second-year player who's really breaking out too. And like, just really just a solid franchise and organization that puts up a fight. Doesn't matter who their opponent is.
13 sales over the last 2 weeks for that Ja Morant silver PSA 10 up to 1350, which I think is a good spot for that card right now. Got a pop of 1246. So
we're thinking about just if I need the money to the Tiger Stripe PSA 10.
Yeah, I remember that
thinking
card.
about giving it to an auction house. I have to think about it a little bit more. But I think for that particular card, because it's such a low pop, it's like 4 or 5, and it's just such a low, super, super short print. I think the best approach might be giving it to an auction house. So if I do, I will document the journey here, because I have not dove into those fields yet, but I think it might be the best place to go.
That's a PSA 10, right? Do you have any guesstimates on what you think that would pull?
I mean, I know
what you would want to see it hit.
When I got it back, I probably give me a second. I can tell you what I valued it at, because I have
because I'm looking at a PSA 9 that last sold on October 25th for 3,400. I would imagine that the premium on those going up from a 9 to a 10 when it's that short printed is pretty massive.
Yeah. So
in the grand scheme of things,
I last January, which must have been when I got it back, so literally almost a year ago now, I valued it on my spreadsheet at $8,000.
Yeah.
I would expect it to be in the 5 figures now, no doubt.
For sure.
So
for sure.
Yeah.
It seems like a good time. Like even for me, not being able to focus as much NBA as I want to right now with football still in full force. Hopefully that changes a little bit and I can shift my attention that way more. But he's the guy that I'm seeing on my timeline. He's the guy that I'm seeing highlights of lately. He's the guy that I'm seeing putting up massive, massive numbers, right? So I think that this would be a good time, or as good a time as any during the regular season, to offload some of that position, especially if you need, you want the little extra cash.
Yeah, man. And like, I think he has like this Trae Young type upside, just to kind of tie the two guys together, of like just the TikTok highlight, high flying, like the ability for kids just to fall in love, right? Which kind of drives a lot of the hype for these guys, a lot of highlights, like just a ability to stay in the conversation and on a winning team. And just like, it has the ball, is not afraid to have the ball in his hands in big moments. Has a complete all-around game. His shooting has gotten much better this year too. Really excited about his future and what he has to bring. And you think about, you kind of juxtapose that off of Zion Williamson, who has not touched the court this year. Every piece of news we get seemingly is bad on him, as far as setbacks, foot, weight issues, just the dysfunction of the New Orleans Pelicans in general. Really scary stuff for Zion. If you were to ask me, put a gun to my head, am I buying or selling Zion right now? I'm buying, because I just don't think you could sell based off what his peak has been. And I want to see him get back on the floor. And I think I've said this on the podcast before, like, even if he has a perpetual injury problem, forever, I think there will be times he's back on the floor and showing that flash again. I mean, he was a top 15 player down the stretch last year. So, I'm not ready to give up on him yet, but it is a scary position. And you look at just the guy who's the number 2 overall pick is coming into a top 15 player just steadily in the league. So, exciting tough stuff for young players, man. I'm really excited about Anthony Edwards. We were going to maybe rip a box of his rookie class Prism on this pod, but I think we're running to an end here. And it's a 24 pack. I got this Prism retail sealed box here. Maybe we'll save it for next week.
That is what we call in the industry a tease, ladies and gentlemen. Come back
I'm not in any rush to open this. So give us some love next week. And if you do, and you give us the love, and we'll give away the Joe Burrow cards. I will open this and give away a couple cards from this box next week. And if we don't pull anything great, I have an Anthony Edwards rookie just ready to give away if we don't pull an Anthony Edwards or LaMelo or anything like that. So, this is, I'm very bullish on this class, LaMelo, Edwards. And, the class going right now, man, Evan Mobley, I can't wait for some of that stuff to come out.
Oh, man.
Next year's rookie class is going to be freaking awesome with Chet and Ranchero and all those dudes. So just NBA is just, if anything that has been, this COVID influx of play things has told us that there's a ton of guys that can play real NBA minutes out there. Right. And do it pretty successfully. Like there's these guys, freaking Kiefer Sykes on the Pacers tonight started at point guard. He's a 28-year-old rookie, been a career G Leaguer, European player, whatever. He put up 36 DraftKings points tonight, like it's pretty steadily at 35. Like he held his own as a starting point guard in 30 plus minutes in the NBA. Yeah, basketball talent out there is really amazing. So, NFL's about to wind down. If you're not an NBA person, I get it. There's a lot of, boomers out there, my dad included, that's saying, oh, it's not the same product it used to be. No one plays defense anymore, yada, yada. It's all bullshit. The NBA is a ton of fun. Go out there and watch it. If you're a football person only, give it a try when football season winds down. I know I'm ranting a lot today, Cody. It's what other way to come back than me ranting? Because that's seemingly what I do.
This is perfect. We got F1, we've got NBA rants, we've got another underdog draft, which we're just going to seemingly do underdog drafts through the app. Yeah, we've played all the hits, this is why we should be getting those numbers up. So again, as Gary mentioned, appreciate you guys showing us some love. And NFL is winding down for me. It's been a crazy year. Not dealing with near as much COVID stuff in the NFL, but still dealing with some crazy COVID stuff. I really want to make the social media account, make this podcast a focus in the NFL offseason. Gary and NBA will be winding down as well. So we'll have, full hands on deck, really trying to grow out this brand, this podcast, trying to help people make better collecting decisions. And honestly, we went through those couple of months where the bubble, the peak, whatever you want to call it, we're down from that. Some of these cards that were unattainable for even a guy like myself are more attainable now. So I think if you have been looking for a reason to get involved and you haven't yet or want to get more involved, I think this is still a great time to do so. And some of these cards that you wanted to get your hands on 6 months ago, eight months ago, they're cheaper now. And theoretically, if you're doing the right things, if you're following Gary's advice, if you're paying attention to the right things in the hobby and on-field performance and things like that, then you're going to be making better collecting decisions and hopefully don't get wrecked. Like some people did over the last couple of months with some of the base stuff and some players who were just fringe NFL, NBA talents and things like that. So I definitely think this is as good a time as any to start getting involved if you've been waiting on the sidelines.
I totally agree. NFTs, we'll be talking about a lot of that too, but I got to give Panini credit. Like they've been doing a decent job just keeping that at the forefront, releasing a lot of packs. So they're involved. And then obviously we have Top Shot and NFL All Day, coming and there's gonna be a lot more of that. We're going to try to have some guests on that might be able to talk about some other NFT projects as well that Cody and I are not as well versed in, but obviously, the stuff going on at OpenSea and all those NFT projects are crazy too. And we don't want to ignore that. It's part of the collectible space for sure. So a lot of great stuff. And just should say, if you're not checking out all the other things we're doing at ETR, obviously Cody's been, releasing amazing articles multiple times a week with all the Showdown stuff. If you even dabble in NBA DFS, I'm telling you, check out what we're doing at the NBA product. Because we had, shout out to Jeremy King, a great ETR NBA subscriber last night, took down the 100K GPP on NBA. I came in 10th in the same tournament. Our projections are crushing right now. We're just hitting our stride. We're thriving on the chaos. So come on over, check us out. If you're check out etr.com. We established a run. We got a lot going on. So, very honored every day to wake up and be a part of such a great company.
I have to ask this because it's been a burning question since I'm seeing some of these names, like guys that I legitimately didn't even know existed are going on the COVID list, not just playing, but they've played and have now entered COVID protocols. Have you found yourself at any point in time cheering or rooting for a lineup, or rooting for a player in a lineup that you've submitted that is climbing up GPP leaderboards and you didn't know going into the games who that player was, or going into the day who that player was? Have you found yourself in that situation?
Going into the day, absolutely. So especially, I took, as you guys all know, I just got married. I had a honeymoon, all that. I took like 2.5 weeks off. I come back right amidst all these chaos. I enter my first shift. I'm looking at our spreadsheets where we do our minutes projections, everything like that. There are every single team, there's a player I have never heard of. Every single team. I'm like, literally the question of the day is like, who the F is this? I do not know. But I quickly adjust. I had 35% Kiefer Sykes tonight. He had 39.5 DraftKings points. He had 22 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds. The guy, listen, all these guys, they're great. Good for them. It's really amazing. By the way, your boy Malik Monk, we spoke about him.
Yeah, let's go.
Going off, continue. He, by the way, getting 33 minutes a night. One of the few guys LeBron trusts on this team right now. He's got 41.5 DraftKings points, 24 points, 6 threes tonight. I wish I had more, but yeah, he's in my best lineup right now. So there you go, Malik Monk.
Well, you've got a sweat. I can see it on your face. I can see you watching the TV. I can see you watching your phones.
It's like a mini sweat. It's like
a mini sweat for Gary Hartman is, I might make 6 figures tonight. I might not.
hardly. I'm trying to make like 4 figures if I'm lucky. I mean, actually at this point, I'm just trying to make trying to make even back on my night. And anything better is extra.
Yeah, you've got a wife now. This is no longer fun. This is no longer a hobby. The fiance, the girlfriend, they can be as supportive as they want. You've got a wife now. So this is very serious business. The collectibles podcast, the collectibles industry is very serious business. So with that,
she's amazing. Like she's like unknowingly, like, I don't want to say trained herself, but like she's like, I'm going to go out, get a drink, take a walk with friends tonight. I'll be back like right around 7:05. Like, did she know that was lock time? Like maybe not, but she's like, she's got it all figured out. And,
it is nice to have supportive girlfriends, wives, fiancés, whatever it may be. If you're doing any of this stuff, card collecting, card selling. I mean, unbelievable. I come home, obviously I've mentioned my wife and I have 3 kids, and it's like, hey, can I take the kids while you update ownership projections on, whatever third string tight end Mo Alley Cox is now projected for 60% of the targets. Yes, sure. Great. Please do so. So yes,
just congratulations to you. Any wife or girlfriend that understands the word ownership projection, good luck. And I hope you have the right one that is supportive, because I know Cody and I do. We're lucky, but it's not the easiest life, but we're lucky to have very supportive wives.
Congratulations to you on the marriage, the mini moon. I know there's a bigger honeymoon coming, but we're here for you guys. We're here now to get back into this thing and to really help you guys become better collectors. So we appreciate you for being here. We will be back next week, same time, same place. So like, subscribe, rate, review, whatever you've got to do. We'll be here for you week in and week out to help you with all of your collecting needs. So with that, for Gary, I'm Cody. We'll see you next week.